everyone, I'm Maddie, the artist behind DumpsterSlayer, and I made the Pure Michigan Appliqué quilt pattern. And today you're going to be coming with me as I take you along the journey of thrifting and making this design so you can do it at home. Some fun facts about the design are the tree limbs are actually some of your favorite Michigan landmarks. We have Lake Huron, Lake Erie, the Upper Peninsula, Lower Peninsula, Lake Michigan, and Lake Superior. My favorite. The pattern comes with both options for the trees or the little mittens, which this one is so cute on a hoodie. Are you kidding me? Look at it. I made it on a throw pillow, the hoodie, and the apron, and this is just a great gift to give to people or to yourself. It is so cute, it's so simple, and it is super beginner friendly. I'm going to be taking you guys with me today to go to the thrift store to get all the materials to show you just how easy it is to make this quilt applique using all secondhand materials. There are seriously so many supplies at the thrift store, and my favorite place to look for fabric is the linen section. You can use napkins, bed sheets, seriously anything, and we're just looking for a couple different colors of fabric and an item for us to applique on. Next, we're going to start by printing out our pattern. So you're going to print this just as standard full-size paper, and you're going to cut around the border. And what I like to do first is cut one edge of a side, and then I tape on the other edge without cutting so that I can line it up and it actually has some support behind it. And then from there, once you tape the pieces together, you cut out your shape. Only the hills require taping. Everything else is small enough that you can cut it before then. Next, we're going to pull out the fabric we thrifted and the item we're going to applique on and iron everything flat. This just makes everything so much easier to work with. And we're going to be using heat and bond today. So this is optional. And if you're going to be sewing it, make sure you get sewable heat and bond. And if you decide to not sew, you can also get no sew heat and bond, which is a super awesome option as well. Heat and bond basically turns your fabric into a big sticker, which is really nice when you're working with very small things in applique. So you follow the instructions on your packaging. It typically says to put the adhesive side down on the fabric, iron it for a couple seconds, and then allow it to cool. Once we've heat and bonded our fabric, we're now going to start cutting out our pattern shapes. What I like to do is pin my pattern pieces onto the fabric that they're going to be used with. And then from there, they stay in place and I'm able to cut everything out. Once you've cut out all your big shapes, we're going to move on to our tree limbs because these are a little more intricate. For the larger tree in the center, I'm just going to pin those paper pattern pieces onto their fabric. Then for the smaller tree limbs, I like to just use a glue stick and glue on the front side of my paper pattern pieces. And then I put them on the back side of my fabric where the peel off paper is. And then we're just going to start cutting everything out. And when you are done using the glued pieces, what you can do is peel off that pattern paper piece again so you can reuse it for another project. Once you've got all your pieces cut out, it's time to head over to the iron. So before you iron, make sure to peel off that back piece of paper if you are using the heat and bond. And then you're just going to lay out your design how you'd like on whatever item you're appliquing. And then you're just going to iron for about 6 seconds in each section to make sure that it sticks together. So I'm just laying out my front and back of my hoodie. I did the mittens on the front, and then with the mountains in the back, you can play with different ways of how you'd like them, and then you're just going to iron it flat when you're ready. Once you're done ironing and it's cooled down, you can head over to the sewing machine. I'm using this really cool foot called a free motion foot, and basically every time you're stitching, it picks up rather than a normal presser foot that sandwiches it down, so you can make all sorts of swirls and whirls, and is a really cool way to add details to things. So I love doing that on the mountains. I added a bunch of layers and it was a really cool design. Once you're done sewing, we can add our tree layer. So I like to lay the stem down first and then I use tweezers to kind of place everything. This just makes it easier because everything can move around a lot when you're doing this. And on the instructions PDF is a diagram of where all of the shapes are supposed to go to create this look for the tree. Once you have your largest tree as you like, we're just going to iron that down for a couple seconds and then we're going to start working on the smaller side trees. So we're going to go through the same process of laying them down, and then once you get the design you like, you're just going to iron that for a little bit, let it cool, and then head over to the sewing machine. I switched over to green thread to do the trees, and I used a lighter color so it would pop more, and I'm just using that same foot to create all of these swirls, and I love sewing the trees because it was so fun. And then when we head over to the bark, I'm doing the same exact process where I went over to a brown thread, and I'm just kind of stitching up and down to create a look of bark, which you can also do without the free motion foot and just kind of go up and down with your normal sewing machine. Once we're done sewing everything, we're going to start adding our embroidered snowflakes. So what I do first is just draw a T shape wherever I'd like a snowflake to go. And I'm just using a white colored pencil to do this. And once you're ready to sew, we're going to thread an embroidery needle with whatever color embroidery floss you'd like. I use like a really light blue. And we're going to first stitch that T shape. Once you do the T shape, you're then going to stitch an X over top of that T. And you're just going to repeat this for all of the snowflakes. And then on the back side, once you're done, we're just going to tie a double knot to complete it and snip off any extra thread. And there's the completed sweater. It turned out so cute and I am obsessed with this design and make sure to post your creations, and I'll see you later. Bye!